In the year Daisy and Ethan were set up on a blind date, she was legally unmarried, but had a 2-year-old daughter. She didn't have a marriage certificate because she accidentally got pregnant at 19 and married her boyfriend, only to find out later that he was a mama's boy. When her disappointed tears accumulated into a sorrowful lake, she became a single mother with her daughter. Despite her longing for love, when young men in their 20s heard she had had a child, they shook their heads as if they were rattling drums. The men introduced to her by the matchmaker were mostly in their 30s or 40s. That year, Ethan was 31. His first wife was a college classmate and they got married after graduation. In the second year of their marriage, his wife was diagnosed with late-stage kidney disease. After it developed into uremia, she relied on dialysis to live for another 4 or 5 years. His parents advised him to divorce and find a healthy woman, but he never agreed. In the end, his wife passed away and he was left with nothing. The matchmaker didn't hide anything from Daisy, telling her that Ethan had sold his marital home to pay for his wife's medical treatments. Daisy didn't mind this. She admired his devotion, responsibility and sense of duty to his family. She believed that before being a woman, she was first and foremost a mother, and placed love after marriage, leaving it to fate. With the help of the matchmaker, they added each other on WeChat and had good conversations, with Ethan taking the initiative to suggest meeting in person. It was raining on the day they agreed to meet. Daisy was thinking of rescheduling, but Ethan insisted on the meeting, so she had no choice but to wait for him near her home at a KFC. She took her daughter with her, to make Ethan understand what being with her would mean so they wouldn't waste each other's time and emotions. The rain was getting heavier, and she sat by the window, looking out at the rain-filled air, her thoughts as scattered as the rain itself. She wanted to call to see where he was, but was afraid to disturb him while he was driving. In her anxious state, Ethan walked in the door, putting his umbrella in the umbrella stand. Tall and fit, he turned his head and gave her a gentle and weary look. Daisy watched as he, like a headless fly, held a cake in one hand and looked for a seat while making a phone call. When she saw his name pop up on her phone screen, she waved at him. She playfully held her phone up to show him, and he paused. As he hung up, a shy smile appeared on his face. He had bought the cake from his side of town. Because he had carried it from the underground garage for a bit, there were a few wet spots on the box. When he was cutting the cake, a moist lock of hair fell, landing on his slightly melancholic eyes. At first, they were both a bit nervous and chatted about random things. Later, her daughter crawled to the windowsill to play and made her way over to Ethan. He held the child with one hand and pointed outside the window with the other. "Look, car." The girl giggled in his arms, and Daisy smiled as well. The waiter called out their order number, and she stood up to pick up their soy milk, fried chicken, and fries from the counter. Ethan was busy with the child and couldn't handle the food, so she inserted the straw into the soy milk, pulled it out again, and drew a drop of milk onto her hand to make sure it wasn't too hot before bringing it to his lips. His lips, flushed and like a flower, moved in an inviting rhythm that made her heart flutter. In their largely anticipated meeting, both found an unexpected delight. That day, after Ethan went home, he texted her, "The weather is really bad, but the sound of the rain helps with sleep. Wishing you and your child sweet dreams." Daisy restrained herself and replied, "You too." Upon meeting her in person, Ethan was especially pleased with Daisy. Young, beautiful, gentle, and thoughtful. Despite enduring a turbulent marriage, her eyes were still lake-like, crystal clear and innocent. This made him believe that fate could change, and that a colorful future could be reached as long as he ran hard enough. His previous marriage had left him withered. Love withered, life withered, everything was leading towards withering. He wasn't as noble as the matchmaker had described. He had spent many painful years with his wife and had moments of wanting to give up, but he couldn't turn a blind eye. Really, like Zhang Ailing wrote, seeing her, he felt very humble, very low. If it weren't for society's harsh demands and prejudices against women, he would never have met her. He really cherished this opportunity, and in order to win Daisy over, he asked the matchmaker about her likes and dislikes. He had especially ordered a mango cake, which she loved, and patiently and carefully cared for her daughter. He genuinely did like children. His past wife had an illness and couldn't have children. Year after year dragged on, and his parents kept pressuring him to divorce. His stress was immense. After his wife passed away, he was urged by his parents to date again. Women of his age were mostly realistic, and upon hearing he didn't have a house, turned to leave. He also didn't have confidence in living a life full of compromise and negotiations. Deep down, he was still like a young man in his 20s, having many things he wanted to do but could not do with a partner. Without a house, he still had his career. As long as he was willing to work hard, it wouldn't be hard to reach better days. In order to win the heart of his beloved, he had to be thoughtful about their second meeting. Before going to work every day, Daisy would send her daughter to her parents' house. Since her sister-in-law also had a child and there wasn't enough space at home, Daisy and her daughter had to rent a place near her mother's house after her divorce. The entire family saw each other every day. That day, as she hurriedly stepped out of her house with her daughter, she was startled to see Ethan waiting downstairs. He showed up early in the morning, pompously, in a hustle and a bustle, and with a car full of gifts that won the favor of her entire family. As he drove her to work, she sat on the passenger seat, her eyes sparkling, her heart pulsating with thrill. Throughout the drive, they chatted nonstop, never running out of things to say. For their subsequent dates, Ethan asked Daisy to bring her daughter along. They went to amusement parks for bumper car rides, to forest parks to see elephants, crocodiles, and ostriches. When the toddler got tired, she would either fall asleep on Ethan or ride a horse on his neck. Through various parent-child activities that required time, energy, brainpower, and money, Ethan portrayed himself as a generous father and a considerate husband. Sometimes they would visit his place, taking out fruits and meats from the refrigerator. He would watch cartoons on the sofa with the child, while Daisy cooked in the kitchen. This domestic, down-to-earth family environment was what Ethan had yearned for, but couldn't have, for many years. Half a year into the relationship, he said to Daisy, "People really should look forward, right?" Daisy nodded in agreement. Since meeting him, she rarely thought about the heartbreaking and disappointing days she had spent with her ex-husband. Past love could be kept in their hearts, but they should all be moving toward the future, shouldn't they? Each time Ethan visited, Daisy's parents would be laughing pleasantly. They believed that this kind, mature man could heal their daughter's emotional wounds and give her a happy, stable life. The simple and close relationship continued for over a year, and then Ethan proposed to Daisy. This time, she finally received the red marriage book. The bridal car once again arrived at their doorstep, friends and relatives gathered, her new husband carried her into the car, with their adorable daughter, crossing half the city back to their shared home. As she sat in the car in her wedding dress that day, she was grateful for the arrival of fate and thankful for her own efforts. Going forward, the bitterness has faded to reveal sweetness, as she had chosen the right person this time. Their married life was as blissful as they had imagined. They faced life with high spirits during the day and were actively trying to conceive at night. However, unsure why, even after trying hard for a whole year, they still hadn't conceived. Holding doubts, they went together to the reproductive center for a checkup, only to find out that Ethan had oligozoospermia. Not only were the numbers low, but the sperm were also not very active. The doctor suggested that they opt for in vitro fertilization, IVF. In IVF, a single sperm with the best activity and morphology is selected and injected into an egg to create a baby. Daisy's cousin had gone through IVF. Her cousin, who had a weak physical condition, experienced severe pain after egg retrieval and had to get 8 tubes of her blood drawn for examination. She also had to take injections to maintain the pregnancy. Daisy, afraid of pain, felt chills thinking about going through the same. After going home, she was apprehensive about doing anything, even talking to Ethan. His expression looked like he had been told by the doctor that he was infertile. Feeling at a complete loss, she secretly told her parents about the situation. Her parents advised her not to tell others and not to bring up the topic of IVF herself. They suggested that if Ethan wanted to proceed with the process, she should cooperate fully, and leave their daughter with them since she would be busy with her frequent hospital visits. Daisy was also thinking the same, and hearing her parents say this reassured her. Ethan was so good to her and her daughter, and she was willing to experience any pain for him. However, she was worried about the expenses. She had heard from her cousin before that some couples spent hundreds of thousands and still failed to conceive successfully. They had originally planned to save money for a house, and now they suddenly needed to undergo IVF, which made her afraid that they would end up with neither a house nor a child. She was worried that Ethan couldn't accept such a situation where the desired results were not achieved from any side. Since being together, she could feel that he was somewhat self-conscious in front of her and always demanded himself to give his all. However, giving and taking are both sides of a scale, and the weight on both sides cannot differ too much. This was something she had deeply felt in her past marriage. Furthermore, Ethan really wanted a child. When they first met, he subtly asked her if she was willing to have children. Marriage is a combination of love, but also a result of mutual needs, and she understood him. When Daisy came out of the bathroom, she found that Ethan had locked himself in the room and showed no signs of coming out. Checking the time, she started to prepare dinner. She put a free-range chicken, carrots, corn, and water caltrip into the pressure cooker, cut cabbage, cucumber, beef, scallions, ginger, and garlic, and finally started cooking rice. After putting on her apron, she rushed to pick up her daughter from school. Normally, Ethan would pick her up while Daisy cooked dinner. Unaware that the bicycle seat had been adjusted to a higher position, she, having short legs and lacking a knack for physical activities, had her bicycle toppled over at the last bend near the house. Both mother and daughter were teary and covered in dust when they got up. As soon as the little girl got home, she burst into tears and started crying for her father. Looking at Ethan's closed room door, Daisy apologized to her daughter with unrest. "Mom didn't mean to crash you, stop crying." Unhappy, the little girl argued, "You're mean. I won't call you Mom anymore." "Fine by me." Daisy slammed the medicine box and stormed off into the kitchen, clanging pots and pans. When the exhaust had finally silenced, she heard Ethan in the living room, reading The Little Prince to their daughter. "But she alone is more important than all of you, since she is the one I have watered. Since she is the one I placed under a glass. Since she is the one I protected behind a screen. Since it is she whose caterpillars I have killed, except for 2 or 3 for butterflies. Because I have listened to her complaints, or sometimes her silence." Their little girl had only memorized half of the sentence. When she asked why it was so important, Ethan replied, "Because in this world, only you and Mom are my roses." The little girl chuckled and said, "Wow, then I want to be a rose." "Good, you'll be the little rose, and Mom will be the big rose. Without Mom, there wouldn't be you. Next time, let's not make Mom sad, okay?" "Agreed." Daisy, who had initially planned to serve dishes, returned to the sink to wash her hands, trying hard not to let her tears roll down. Ethan purposely came over to tease her. "Such a big person is still crying." "I'm not." But the child saw, she said Mom was crying, so she dared not cry. Only when she got back home did she cry. Daisy's heart ached severely, tears welled in her eyes again, and Ethan hugged her and coaxed, "Honey, sorry. I've already adjusted. Now, let's eat first. We can talk about everything after filling our bellies, okay?" The sun went down, the moon came up, they sat in the bright room, the plain but delicious food comforted them, all the twists and exertions of the day vanished. After careful consideration, they decided to go forward with the IVF. Daisy felt that her in-laws were in a tough spot. They finally had a healthy daughter-in-law after their son's initial refusal and lack of prospects for a grandchild, and it must have been hard to deal with their son's present situation. Moreover, she also wanted to have a child for this man who loved and cherished her. If the presence of an additional child could make everyone happy, why not go for it? On the other hand, Ethan decided to pursue IVF to shut up his parents. If they couldn't succeed even with medical intervention, then it would mean he was destined to be childless. By then, his parents could only feel guilt and gratitude for Daisy, not blame or complaint. Plus, they'd both been working on it for a year, there was still hope, and if they didn't take the chance to try, how could they resign themselves to it? Afterward, Ethan started drinking Chinese medicine to refine his health, while both of them maintained regulated sleep and a healthy diet. When their daughter's kindergarten went on summer vacation, they packed their bags, drove their little girl to Grandma's house, and told others that the couple was going on an overseas trip to celebrate the first anniversary of their wedding. The neighbors all envied Daisy for marrying such a good husband who loved his wife so much, which was rare to see. That day was a beautiful one, with the sun shining brightly. On their journey back home, they noticed that the crepe myrtle flowers on the roadside had all bloomed. Then followed frequent leaves and hospital visits. A month later, the doctor arranged the drug use for ovulation stimulation, as well as the dates for sperm collection and painless egg retrieval procedures, based on their examination report and health conditions. The embryologist selected, under the microscope, the most vigorous little tadpole. After fertilization to form an embryo, it was transplanted back into the mother's womb for further development. 2 weeks later, they went to the hospital for a pregnancy test, which showed that Daisy was pregnant. They excitedly went to pick up their daughter at the tail end of summer vacation. Daisy's parents made a large feast to celebrate, and the whole family was elated. They then rushed to inform their good news to Ethan's parents. Ethan's parents, both in their 60s, had tears in their eyes and kept thanking Daisy while holding her hands. After 9 months, Daisy gave birth to a boy, under the care and protection of doctors and family. Her parents were overjoyed and told their friends and relatives. Initially, some people looked down upon my daughter for giving birth to a girl. Disregarding her, they made her return to the parental home with the baby even before they got their marriage license. Now let them regret. Seeing her parents glowing with pride and satisfaction, Daisy's heart wrenched with sorrow. However, apart from parents, who else in this world would lament over the injustices their child had suffered? She told herself that she must be a good mother and raise both children in a healthy and happy environment. The following days passed in a flurry of mundane tasks. Daisy became a full-time mom. Ethan was working hard to earn money, treating both children equally. In a blink of an eye, their son was ready for kindergarten. One day, Daisy told Ethan that it was time to pay the school fees. After coming home from work, he sank into the couch, quickly opened his phone to transfer the money, and mentioned that he had just received a sum of prize money. After receiving the money, Daisy asked, "What about our daughters?" He playfully teased her. Of course, she should ask her dad. Seeing her expression change, Ethan quickly jested, "Her dad isn't me? Who else were you thinking about? Besides, thanks to him being rotten, you instead fell into my good graces, haha." As Daisy brandished the kitchen spatula in her hand, she demanded, "I didn't catch that, could you repeat what you just said?" Seeing the change in the air, Ethan bolted for the door. The pretend squabble between husband and wife made the two kids think they were playing a game of catch the chicken, in which they tripped Daisy, and the fierce mother hen was caught and given a lot of kisses by the gentle eagle, which diffused her annoyance. The family continued their journey with laughter. May everyone encounter love and be able to protect this love due to their affection for each other, until they grow old.